Hey there, 5-6. Today we're going to study a passage of scripture that talks about three guys who were ordered to bow down before a huge statue and worship it. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it's highly unlikely that you'll ever be commanded to worship a huge gold statue. But I will say that we do live in a world and a culture that promotes its own forms of idol worship. In today's lesson, we'll be discussing Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, three guys who had to choose between standing up for God or angering the king and being thrown into the fiery furnace to their death. Their level of conviction and their beliefs is totally inspiring and gives us a fantastic picture of what it means to stand up for your faith, even if no one ever tries to throw you into a fiery furnace. Our scripture reading for today comes from the book of Daniel, chapter 3, verses 1 through 30. In our scripture reading, we learned that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had earned King Nebuchadnezzar's favor and had been appointed to high positions. Where have we heard that before? Maybe with the story of Joseph? The king knew of their faith in God, yet it didn't influence his heart at all. He was a prideful man and wanted his way no matter what. When the king built his statue and demanded everyone worship it, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were faced with the ultimate challenge to their faith. So let's see what we can learn from them. That brings me to my first point. If you stand up for God, your faith will be challenged. Long before this event took place, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had decided that they would honor God in all situations. The similar idea is true for us. If we haven't determined ahead of time that we'll stand up for God no matter what, then we probably won't even have the strength and wisdom to deal with challenges and temptations that will come our way. That brings me to my next point. If you stand up for God, you will face temptation. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had no guarantee of how God would come through. It could have been God's plan to allow them to die. But they exercised their faith and were bold in their stand. Their level of conviction was amazing and inspiring. That brings me to my next point. If you stand up for God, you will never be alone. God honored Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego's willingness to die rather than worship another god. Sometimes when we make a stand for God in a way that honors those around us, it can have an impact on people and move them closer to God. That brings me to my next point. If you stand up for God, you will bless others. For the past couple of weeks now, we've been talking about how taking a stand for God takes courage and conviction, and there's no guarantee that it will ever be easy. We can be sure we'll run into challenges when we stand for God, and we could be tempted to back down. But we need to remember we are never alone, and God will provide what we need. The decision to honor and obey God could influence others to actually follow God. That's a huge deal. That's all I got for today, 5-6. See you again soon.